Okay, this is an attempt, my first ever attempt at a walkthrough of an Excel case. This is the Everyday I'm Shuffling case from the UK qualifiers round 2 2026. And I will talk you through a solution, some of which I did during the live case, but some of it was stuff I only worked out afterwards, or better ways I found to do it afterwards. So, yeah, and I'm going to time myself. So here's our stopwatch, and right, let's go. So level 1, we've got our cards and we've been asked to find the position. So before I do anything, I'm going to just do some setup work. So we've got our cards over here, and I'm going to create some named ranges. So I'm going to insert an empty row so I can just select all of this. But before that, I'm going to change these labels so they're nice and simple or more intuitive. So cards, suits, colors, values, and so on. I'm going to select all of them and do Control Shift F3 to then create names from selection. So now cards is just that reference there. So let's get started. So what I want to do is I want to index into the cards, take that position, and we find the card, fill that down, and that's level 1. So level 2, for each game, start with a new deck in the new deck order, and the code tells us we're doing a cut. We take that many cards from the top of the deck and then put them on the bottom in a single block, and then we need to find out which card is in the relevant position. So I'm going to create this using a data table. So I've got a macro here that just sets that up for me. So I'm looking to cut at the 23rd space and then take the third cut. So we need to start with the cut. So what I'm going to do is I want to get the number from this cell. So I'm going to use regex extract from this cell. The pattern is any from our digits. There could be multiple, and then we're going to multiply that by 1 so it converts to a number. So now what I want to do is I'm going to start with the cards, but I actually want to take the first 23. So I'm going to take the first 23 rows, but I need to take the other bits and put them underneath. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this in steps, but then I'll put it all together. So I actually want to then take from cards the last, so I'm going to take the last rows from the bottom, so I'm using a minus, and the amount I need is 52, the total number in the deck, minus the amount we've previously taken out. So that's the rest of it, but I now need to put that underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this formula here, go back into here, and I'm going to V-stack these together. So the cards I've taken are now underneath the ones that don't. I no longer need that. Actually, I've done that the wrong way around because I've now just got the original, so I need to take that and put it in front. Get rid of that row comma. There we go. And then I want to take the card in the third position, King of Diamonds, which we can see is correct. So I'm just going to say equals index of this range and that card. And if we go back, yep, that's all of level 2 correct. Right, level 3, starting to warm up. So now we're going to, as before, start with a new deck. We're going to perform a series of cuts in a row, so not just one cut but multiple cuts. So I'm just going to build my data table. This time we've got multiple cuts, so let's start by getting that information, and we've got to deal with the fact that sometimes we have 2, sometimes we have 3, sometimes we have 4. So we're going to, this time I'm actually going to start with the cards as the kind of starting point. I'm going to take my formula from the previous level. I'm going to put it here, and it's going to return an error to start off with because the cell references are in the wrong place, and also we're starting not with the same place. So this time I want to start with this range, because this way we're going to be able to drag this to the right when we get our other references set up. So now what I'm also going to do, just going to give myself a little bit of space, I want to take from this the last 4 columns, so we get rid of that first one, and then I also want to, again, I want to regex extract any numbers from here. So sets of 0 to 9 plus and multiply by 1 to get the actual number, and So now, instead of referencing that, I'm going to reference this. So that then performs the cuts on that one. I'm going to drag that over to the right. We're going to get an error there, and we need to know which set to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sequence of 4 columns, and I need to count how many we're actually having. So if I do count ifs, this range is greater than 0, so we've got 2. So if what we do, we can say, right, x lookup 2 in this sequence and return this range. So that's our shuffled deck at the end. Didn't really need to do that as the whole possible 4. So that gives us what are we actually looking for, and then we want to index into that this number of times. So we're looking for the 6th card, which gives us a 2 of spades, which is correct. So let's just check example B. So we now have 4 and it finds the 7. So our answer is that cell there. We go back to the case and that's all solved. Right, level 4, overhand, underhand shuffling free. We've now moved to the overhand shuffle. We start with a new deck as before, but as with the cut, we take the top number and put them underneath. So as with the cut, take the top number of cards from the deck, put these to one side for now. Now take the top number of 2 cards from the remaining cards. What is the total card value for this group of cards? Okay, so if I'm going to create my new one. So this time, first we need to get these 2 numbers out. So again, I'm going to start using regex extract. And I'm going to try and do this all in a single column because later I'm going to have to scale this. And if I can keep it all in a single column, that will help. So I want to take any numbers and each instance. So I've got 34 and 8. I'm going to times it by 1 to make sure they're actually numbers. And I'm going to 2-col this so they're actually in a single column. So this is my cut and this is my group size. So on this level we're starting with just the original deck. So I'm going to, am I going to build this from here? Yeah, let's go back to level 2 and grab this for the starting one. So I'm going to put that in there and I want to cut 34. So that would be my full shuffle, but that's not actually what I want. What the question tells me to do is to take the cut and put that to the side, and then the remaining ones deal the first, in this case the first 8 cards. So actually I just want to get the remaining, which is that. So these were the remaining 18 cards, because when we've taken 34 we have 18 left, and we're then going to take the first 8 of these. So for now I'll do this thing over here just for now. So we want to take the first 8, and then I think the question says what is the sum of the values. Yeah, the sum of the values. So let's x look up these cards in the cards range and return the values, and then I'm going to sum that. And there we go, and I'm going to point to that. So 51 is what the example is, and we've got all of that. Now this is where it gets a little bit trickier, because we now don't just do that dealing out the groups, once we do it multiple times until we run out of cards. So I'm going to again build a new case. I'm going to take this starting point, actually let's take the references as well. So again we would start with that, but this time we need to do it multiple times. So we need to take this remaining set of 18 cards and find out all the groups. So a little thing I learnt here is we kind of need to know how many groups there are in total, so how many groups there will be. So actually we need the remaining, so how many cards are left over? Well, that's going to be 52 minus 34, and that means we're going to need to do the number of remaining divided by the number of groups, but round that up because we have to have a whole number of groups. So we're going to have 3 groups. So what I'm going to do, and this is the thing I didn't do in the live case, I ended up with a very messy solution, and I realized afterwards a wrap cols works really well. So if I wrap the cols to the number within each group, and if I pad that with blank, these are now our 3 groups, and what we're asked for this time is to get the values and then take the maximum one. So I'm going to do the same thing again where I XLOOKUP this in cards, return the values. If it's not found, return a 0. And then because I want to try and think ahead, I'm going to then go by column and sum this. So those are my columns, and then for now I'm just going to take the max of those because that's what the question asked for, but for later we'll actually undo this slightly. So that's 52, it's all correct. So level 6 is a similar thing, but this time we're starting to stack it all back into the same card. So I'm going to build my data table. I'm going to start with this as my starting point. This time it's going to give me an error because it's looking at the wrong cell to start off with. I now want to go back to my actual cards. In fact, I just need the wrap cols. I don't need any of that. So these are my wrap cols, and what I need to do is basically stack these but in reverse order. So I need to stack that, then this, then this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a lambda firstly. It's going to build a lambda where we put in a number and we then index within this in the position of x. And to test it, if I put 3 there, nope, didn't like that. What have I done wrong? Spelled lambda wrong, that's why. Still doesn't like it. Oh yes, because I need the whole column, so I do that. So I'm now getting the third one, so I need to then stack these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside a let. So I'm going to say let the function is going to equal that. And then what I want to do is I want to use reduce over an array, and I want to do a sequence of the number of groups, starting at the number of groups, going in reverse order, and I'm going to vstack, sorry, I need to lambda accumulator and current. I want to vstack the accumulator with function of the current. I'll just close that all out. It's going to look a bit messy because there's some gaps. I'm going to not worry about the gaps because we're going to filter those out later. So that is those 3 groups now stacked, and I need to also join that with, and this is where I need to start building a bit more carefully, the original card. So I need to vstack that with no, I need to build that into, so I need to vstack that with, I'm going to take from the cards the original cut. Doesn't like that, and so now we've got that. Yes, good. Okay, and now I'm going to call that my result for now, and then I'm going to filter in here. So result, I want to filter R where R doesn't equal nothing. So that's my output. And for now I could just say that I need to find the 5th, so I could just look that, but actually I want to tidy this up now so it's all into a single column. So let's take this, which is G, and let's put it in here. So we now don't need that. So we now have got a formula that goes straight from, actually I need to refer to that, so that is the F9. So what I need to do is copy that into here, so replace it. So slowly building this up, so that's no longer needed. So I've now got a single formula that takes this information and shuffles it. So for now this will put me in a good position for the next level. So I'm going to index that in the 5th position. Gives me the 8 of hearts, which is correct, and that solves level 6. Okay, level 7 we're now going to scale up nice and quickly, because what we're going to do is we take this level 6, which is, let's take E and F, put it in here. That refers to the first one. So this time what we're going to do is, the only difference is I'm going to put cards here. I'm then going to take out the references to cards and change it with E9 hash. So it refers to that. So when we drag and fill, we're not worrying. I'm going to drag that over here. Do the same with that. I'm going to do the same here. And I'm going to do, let's just check the fifth card on the second one is the Jack of Clubs. So yes, we're on the right track. So then I'm going to do my sequence trick from before. So we're then going to, let's give ourselves a bit of extra space here. So we want to X look up, oh no, we need to find out how many there actually are. So we're going to, let's just, oh, this give me errors, I think. Let's do it here. So take, there we go, is number, is that going to give me, let's to call that just to check it, is that going to give me 2 trues? Yes, so let's just, because I'm just trying to count how many actual cases there are, so there's 2, so let's just sum that. So we want to X lookup 2 in there and return our array, and then we want to just index into that array, returning to this position, which gives us Jack of Clubs. So we'll set that as the answer. Let's just check the second one. No, it's not returning. So what's going wrong here? That's looking at that. That's looking at, why is that? Oh, because I inserted those 2 extra rows. So that's returning that. But now I'm getting an error on all of these ones. I'm getting 0. So what's going on there? 1, 2, 1. That's returning an error. That's returning an error. Doesn't like to find an error, so maybe I just need to go. This error tracking from here, so I think I'm just going to say, oops, would it help if we just wrap this all in an if error, return nothing? Will that solve those? No, it doesn't. That's frustrating. Go back to example 7a. Looking up the 4. Oh, because that's giving me a 4 when it's not really a 4. Okay, I see what's going on. So it works with a 4, but if that's not, so actually we want to go count if. Okay, let's take the last 4 columns of this. Let's 2-call it just to make this easier. Let's take the left of it and let's say equals S, and then let's take the sum of the double operand. There we go. Okay, that's worked. So case level 7, brilliant. How are we doing for time? 18 minutes gone. Right, on very good track. Right, question bonus 1. What suit appears most often in level 1? So I'm going to X lookup this in cards and return the suits, and then I'm going to do a quick group by. So group by that by itself, do a count A 0 0, and I think -2. We'll put it in the correct order. So diamonds comes out top, so it's diamonds. What single cut would bring your pack back to the new deck order? So basically it's going to be C and 52 minus 17, because if we have 17 then there's 35 other cards, so basically the opposite. If you do all the shuffles in level 3 excluding the exam, which single shuffle would bring you back? So if we do all the shuffles, so what I'm going to do here is 2-call all of the shuffles. Let's get all of that. I'm then going to extract all the numbers, so regex extract from that 9 plus I'm going to multiply that by 1 because otherwise it's not actually a number. I'm going to sum that. Gives me 30, so we want the mod of that 52, but we then need to do the same trick as the previous, so 52 minus that, so it'll actually be the 15th, be like getting the 15th cut, so C15. What is the total card value for the answers in level 6, excluding the examples, so level 6, card values, so let's just go XLOOKUP, XLOOKUP that in cards and return the values, and then we want to sum that, which gives us 125, 125. Let's do the magic trick. You asked the audience, so this is where we're going to do all of these together. So I'm going to create a copy of level 7. I'm going to replace these values with the, didn't save my copy, so copy that, put this here, and what I worked out is that C38 is the same as an S38 with 14 remaining, so one single group. So wherever there's a C, we'll change it to S24 and create one single group after. So we then get all our things, so we're now just going to extend these for 7 more columns. Sequence needs to go up to 7. This needs to just be 7. That range needs to be expanded. Actually, we don't even need that because all we're asked is what's the last card, and the last card is the 4 of clubs. So we put the last card in there and we stop. So 21 minutes and 17. So that's more of a speed run rather than a walkthrough because I didn't really explain much as I was doing it. But yeah, that's obviously knowing exactly what's coming. So that's, and even then I don't think I could improve much on that. There was one bit in the middle where I made a mistake, which had to be debugged, which was probably a minute or two. So yeah, for me 20 minutes would be very much the hard limit of how quickly you could actually do it. And that's, as I said, knowing everything in advance, obviously on the fly, doing the real thing. Just to give you context, in the real live case I got level 1 to 6 all done, but my level 6 solution, I only got half the marks because I had an incorrect cell reference or a duplicated cell reference, which meant on the games where there were, so on level 6 basically the ones where there were lots more groups because there were smaller groups, it didn't work for any over a certain size, so I didn't get most of these last ones right. And then I didn't get onto level 7 because my solution was so messy, trying to duplicate it 4 times, it would have been like hundreds, well, about 120 columns wide, so that's why I didn't get onto that. So yeah, there's an example of how it could be done fairly quickly. I know the fastest time on the day was about 23 minutes, so this shows, you know, how that could be done, but obviously that's next level, being able to work all that first time. I've had the time to go through this afterwards and see how I did. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. That was my first attempt ever at a walkthrough / speedrun.